Hey, everybody. It is April 18th. Let's talk Elon Musk and poison pills today. The big news today is that Twitter has evoked the poison pill. Now, what is the poison pill? You're hearing a lot about the poison pill. The poison pill is a technique used by companies to allow shareholders to buy additional shares at a discount. So when Elon offered $60 or, you know, whatever 54.20, whatever he offered per share, 54.20 a share, the 420 being his joke, which is good old Elon being Elon. Twitter said, let's figure out how to say no to this. They couldn't come out flat out and say no right away, because that would have been opened them up to a lot of lawsuits and litigation. But what they did in their no is they opened up the poison pill. The term comes originally from spies that would carry a poison pill should they get caught so that they wouldn't be tortured. They would just go ahead and kill themselves with a poison pill. So, in essence, Twitter is doing the same thing. They're allowing their investors to buy additional shares, which dilutes the shares, which adds to the number of shares, which would then make it harder and more expensive for Elon to be able to actually purchase Twitter. So it's a strategy being evoked by the board of directors as they pretend that they're still reviewing his offer. Overall, it's pretty telling, right? That this guy comes along and gives an offer that would be great for the stockholders. It'd be about 50% where higher than it was when Elon invested and bought the 9 point something percent that he had. I think the brilliant move here and the take that nobody's really talking about. So I think Elon never had an intent to go on that board ever. I think he pretended he wanted to go on the board. He knew that he'd just be one of 12 votes, but he pretended he wanted to go on the board in order to get the board documents, to get the contracts together. Once he got the contracts together, it's a roadmap to be able to crush Twitter and the board. So he now knows what he would have been limited to, what restrictions, covenants, the amount of insurance that he would have had on the board had he been covered as a board member. He found out that the board combined without Jack Dorsey, so they got rid of Jack Dorsey. Apparently, Jack Dorsey was a bigger free speech advocate than we thought. The board of Twitter is just a bunch of people that are authoritarian. They actually got rid of Dorsey as a board member. He came out today and bashed the board and said that it's one of the toxic pieces of Twitter. So Jack Dorsey is coming out on Elon's side. The rest of the board only owns 0.3%. So the board, now that Elon has the roadmap through the actual contract, the board is now opening itself up to tremendous personal liability. So for those that don't know, when you are on a board, you'll typically have an insurance plan that'll cover you to a degree. There's corporate attorneys for the corporation, but you're individually responsible as a board member for anything that might hurt the company. So in this case, they have an absolute duty to do its best for the stockholders, and most of them aren't even stockholders, which is crazy. So they're actually making moves for their own power and for their own for their own control of the company, and not for the stockholders at large, because the stockholders at large would do much better right now currently to take Musk's offer. So in doing their poison pill, they've yes, they may have made it a little bit more expensive for Elon to pull this off, but they've also completely opened themselves up to liability. And now with Elon actually having the contracts that were offered to him when he came in to be a potential Twitter board member. And again, I'm saying he was never going to do that in the first place. He just wanted that information. So now he knows exactly where their cards are. He's in a much better position to manipulate this to what he wants. Now, the board of Twitter also went under more pressure today. Apollo, which is a big company, they're a PE company, and Apollo has held a discussion about potentially backing a bid for the company. So it means that Apollo might actually be backing up Elon Musk's tender offer. It could be that that they're looking to work out an equity or debt play. Twitter stock reacted positively, but this is another interesting piece of information. It could mean that Elon has been able to pull together other people to make this thing happen. And the more companies that come on and the higher the stock price goes, the more a deal is virtually guaranteed to happen because the board of directors can't say no to everyone, especially as the stock climbs, because then if they say no, the stock's obviously going to crash. So the positive climb, even though it shortens the gap between the stock price per share, it also puts more pressure on the board to do what's right for the shareholders. So this helps Elon's chances, doesn't hurt. Although they may end up going with another company. Apollo and Elon might not be backed together, but they might be, because Elon did come out and say that he was going to look for other people to get involved and possibly back up his play here. Now, on the United States government is a very corrupt end of this. Apparently, the DOJ and the SEC have opened up secret investigations on Tesla and Elon. Isn't that wonderful? So, for all those people out there going, Twitter is a private company. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe they were actually a government company all along, and that's why the board doesn't want to sell. Maybe they're a backdoor for the government to be able to control the First Amendment and do it under the guise of a private company. I think Edward Snowden revealed this years ago, so I'm not breaking any big news. However, the fact that the DOJ and the SEC would open up an investigation literally days after this, it means they don't really care what you and I think, and they really aren't trying to cover their tracks. They're just basically saying, yeah, we're corrupt. We're completely crooked. This is a third world country. And we don't care if you know it or not. We're going to go ahead and do it because this is a threat. Apparently, controlling information, being able to silence political enemies is more important than money or doing the right thing. So I think, if nothing else, Elon has exposed the ruse that's been going on with the United States government pretending that they aren't Twitter and absolutely acting on behalf of Twitter in a mafioso way to try to silence the richest man in the world, keep him from purchasing a company and doing the right thing for the shareholders themselves. As far as news in the crypto world, it was a pretty crappy weekend, but I think that happens every time we have tax season. So tax season's wrapping up today. Once it wrapped up, you saw Bitcoin jump. It's back up to about 41. Ethereum's over 3,000. I mean, everything's down from where it was pretty recently. I mean, Bitcoin had pretty much gotten over 44 comfortably. Now it's hovering right below 41. But now that tax season's wrapping up, you might see more inflows coming in, because people always like to, pull money out to pay their taxes, and sometimes that just requires liquidating their crypto. At the end of the year, you see it so that people take losses, show the loss, and then repurchase. This is a case where people might just be using that money to pay their taxes. And that means the money doesn't flow back in as quickly after, tax season's over. But it does mean that, that I think the pain from this particular event, tax season, has now been felt, and we can get back to your standard volatility in the crypto world. There were a couple things that have happened. Ethereum, I hear their push to proof of stake has been pushed back a couple months. No surprise, that's a pretty big technological push. You're still seeing some really good news out of the Ripple case. The Ripple's pretty much got the government checkmated, and I hear a Ripple executive is going to be on the Federal Reserve Board. So I think that there's more going on in the back end there, as the government realizes that they're going to lose and going to try to find a way to bow out gracefully and give XRP more power, perhaps even use it as the basis for their central bank currency project, which is doomed to fail. Nobody wants the government to control every single transaction. Next thing you know, you'll be told you have to buy tofu for your families every day. Nobody wants that. There's too much power. Anytime you give power to anybody over you, it might work. Well, you have somebody who's altruistic, but there aren't that many altruistic people out there. So central bank digital currencies are going to fail. They haven't been working great in China or anywhere else that's tried to ban cryptocurrencies. We just have to keep moving forward with technology and hope that the countries and legislative bodies line up and somebody has common sense. I did see Senator Cruz, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I did see today he would support Bitcoin being deemed a national currency here in the United States. pretty big statement by a politician. It's also pretty smart because Bitcoin people tend to vote single line item. So in Texas, I know he's got decent history of being reelected. But if he gets a lot of push from some of these tech groups out of Austin and some support from the crypto world, I'm pretty sure that'll help. And if more politicians realize how powerful this lobbying group is, that's good for all of us. Terra's actually jumping pretty heavily. Their move to the stable coin of adding a bunch of Bitcoin to their wallet has proved to be very well received. They're also moving in a deflationary way in other ways. I really like that team and what they're doing. Terra Luna is a group we're looking at working with along with Solana and see if we can tie our product to a stable coin. Kind of trying to work out the legislative portions of that. Sounds like we have some politicians that are disagreeing on how that's going to work and trying to legislate stable coins strictly through banks, which again would be a really bad idea. Although if it did happen, you'd probably see a lot of money coming in. So it all depends on how they do it. But I'm not for more legislation. I know a lot of people are, Mr. Wonderful being one. And there is a case to be made that it'll bring in a tremendous amount of money. But anytime you get government involved in this stuff, I just have a feeling that it'll be more screwed up than good. Very rarely do you see the opposite. But that's pretty much the main things today. We're going to see how this latest move with the Apollo bid on Twitter works out. Things will probably move, pretty fast. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll have some clarity. Twitter board is under fire, even from their past CEO. But again, I don't really consider these individuals as much as I do government employees. So we'll see how they hold up under fire and what they do next. And, I think if the bid ends up coming up higher with 54.20 to 60, I think they're pretty much locked in that they have to do this. We'll see what Elon has up his sleeve, but right now he's got a lot of cards he hasn't played. If it goes to a full court case, that's going to take years. All the board members of Twitter, they're gonna have some challenges, but there's no way to guarantee a win. But I think overall, Elon has some really nice cards. He knows what's in that contract. He knows what their stock price were. He can point out to the fact that this is clearly good for everybody. He can point out the fact that the board doesn't have many shares and is not doing the right thing for the current shareholders. So that puts him in a pretty darn good position to crush legally, but you never know. Depends on a lot of factors, how good the other lawyers are, and whether or not the judge and jury, if it goes before a jury, agree with your case. So you can't guarantee anything, but right now it looks pretty good for him. We shall see. That's pretty much it for today. Well, I'll get into some more stuff tomorrow. AMC Theaters is going to be accepting Dogecoin as Elon's Dogecoin keeps making inroads and practical use. But we'll get into some of that stuff later. For the time being, I hope everybody has a great day. Stay happy, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Adios.